Hello, beloveds. This is Adrienne. I hope you're all staying well. I have been very, very sick. So far, not testing positive for COVID, but just feeling really racked by the the germs, the immune systems, the changes, the patterns. I can feel the shifts in us. I wanted to come on mostly to tell you that we're about to listen to another incredible, beautiful episode of our Witch School podcast. And this one was recorded before October 7th. And as you're listening to it, we're entering a phase where South Africa has brought the case for genocide against Israel in international court. And we're getting to watch really valiant efforts being made and still not seeing the changes that we need. So keep organizing, keep calling, keep writing, keep taking action, and then keep listening for how to harness and direct your magical energy as well. Love you.
I think anybody who survived slavery, like the institution, who survived the Middle Passage, they all were witches. Yeah. They all were witches. They were alchemists.
Oh, that's...
they were able to...
That's chills.
To withstand the hells of that journey and that voyage. To be able to live to be 100 and to see freedom. To see Haiti become a free republic, but also to begin a lineage here in the U.S.
Wow.
She is the oldest witch in my lineage. And so I say light, peace, and progress to the spirit of Agatha Lewis. Light, peace, and progress to the spirit of Agatha Lewis. Light, peace, and progress to the spirit of Agatha Lewis.
Hello, beloved listeners. It's Adrienne, writer of stories and songs, emergent strategist, pleasure activist, and witch, living in the land of the Shakori, Skarure, Tuscarora, Eno, and Lumbee peoples. And this is How to Survive the End of the World, our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity. When I say our, of course, I'm including my sister and co-host, Autumn. She's currently on sabbatical. That means she's resting, leave her alone. In her absence, and in honor of my book, Fables and Spells, I'm going full witch this season and having conversations with some of my favorite witches, conjurers, and magicians in the world. And I'll also be reading you little bits and pieces from the book. Now, what I mean by witch is people who work with elements of the natural world, including human nature, to generate more possibilities. Witching is engaging the essential natural world with magic, healing, or supernatural intentions. Some names for what I'm including in this work: shamanism, sorcery, seeing and healing, herbalism, midwifery and doula labor, Reiki, root work, conjuring, ritual and spell casting, astrology and divination, sound baths, altar building, song channeling, all manner of building a direct relationship with the realm of the ancestors, of the spirit, the holy, the ethereal, and ourselves. Now, as always, we have no sponsors. We don't do any ads. We don't have any big funders backing this podcast. We just do it for the love, and your support means so much to us. So if you're not a Patreon already, are you a Patreon or a patron? I don't know. But if you haven't gone to our Patreon and signed up, come support our work. Just a little bit goes a long way. Now, I'm very excited about our guest today because this is someone who I have been a huge fan of on the internet. You know how you find people on the internet, you're like, wait. And the way I found this person on the internet was that she got married. And when she got married, it was an iconic fashion event amongst Black culture. And everyone I knew who was anyone was at the wedding or knew about the wedding and posted pictures and videos of it. It had a theme. It was a major ordeal. And I was like, who is this person that everyone is so obsessed with? Like, who is this? And it turns out it was Shantrelle Lewis, who is the curator and co-founder of Shop Black, who is a scholar, critic, and filmmaker, whose work includes the gorgeous In Our Mother's Gardens, who also curates the online space Boku Hoodoo, demystifying African traditional religions. And you're also a Shango priest. And unlike anyone else who's coming on to this podcast this year, I actually wrote a poem about you without knowing I was writing a poem about you, which is the one I'm going to read today. So we'll get to that story in a minute, but welcome, Shantrelle, to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, my love. How are you today?
Well, I'm excited. It's been a long, long, long day. And all day I knew I was going to get to talk to you at the end of it. So I'm like, I made it through like PT and a home appraisal and like all kinds of meetings. And I'm in the blessed phase of my life where every single thing I'm working on is something I deeply want to be doing. But it's a lot. My life is very full. And my body, I'm landing back in my body also after some adventures and hijinks and just moments where I was like, what's going on inside there, body? Right. I feel like, I know what's going on. I need to stop eating dairy again. So,
oh, girl, talk about it.
It's
okay,
so sad.
Because
I think the dairy is getting more violent.
Oh, absolutely. I was having a whole conversation with my body as I was leaving Starbucks today. Like, why do you have to react this way to dairy?
No, it's not fair.
You know, and it's not dairy and sugar. And I have a very violent reaction to sugar, actually.
So
that
sad.
is genetic. And it's very sad.
So sad.
And so it's my daily struggle.
Yeah.
And I've just been having this conversation with my body. But I'm deep in my moon cycle right now, which is completely aligned with the full moon.
Yes, good.
And I have excruciation pain. So I'm moving through that, But again, like I had this conversation with myself when I left out of the house this morning. I was like, one, I was going to be talking to you this afternoon, so I'm going to push through. And then I was just like, oh, what were my Aegon doing when they had to go and work those sugarcane plantations in Haiti and Louisiana when they were feeling like this? They did the work that they needed to do. And like yourself, I'm doing work that I'm deeply engaged in, deeply fulfilled in, deeply loved, that brings me so much joy. So I'm like, I'm going to get up and do the work anyway, even though I want to lay down. And I know Trisha Hershey would be like, lay your ass down, sis.
Yes, lay your ass down. And I'm like, if you want to lay down while we're talking, you totally can, I'm like, there's no guideline that says we can only do the podcast standing up or sitting up or anything.
Good.
I'm like, you can turn off the visuals. You can lay down. Like, I'm like, I feel like we're already intimates because I leave you voice memos laying in my bed. I'm just like, I'm like
first thing in the morning.
Yes, exactly. I was like, you know what it sounds like, the first voice. So, well, I'm glad your body is in conversation with you, right? I feel like I keep having I'm in this grief cycle now, and I keep thinking like, oh, well, this is a problem of living. I'm alive, so I'm experiencing this pain, and when I'm no longer alive, I won't experience this pain anymore. But there's trade-offs, I'm like, I like being alive. And so I'm like, I'll pay the cost until I can't anymore.
Yes. And managing how to negotiate pleasure, like food that brings us pleasure, but it's not necessarily the healthiest for us.
Exactly. There's this meme that's going around that's like, I can only handle one toxic relationship in my life, and it's dairy, and
send it to me or tag me.
Because I'm just like, this is it was my nibling's birthday this past week, and so I went to the birthday and I was like, I don't want to be all needy. This is the thing that always goes through my head. It's the secret part of me that's like, I want dairy. So but it shows up to me as like, you don't want to have all these special like requirements from people. Just eat the lasagna, eat the little ice cream cake. It's no big deal. Like, girl, go to the movies and have your popcorn with your M&Ms. It's fine. And then like, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Eat it. And then I come out and all of a sudden I'm like, I literally was calling the doctor, like something's horribly wrong with me and I'm bloated out, like I feel like Violet from Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory. I'm rolling around. I'm dysfunctional. I think I broke myself and maybe it's a heart attack. I don't know what's going on. She's like, could it be gas? And I was like, Oh no. I mean, I don't think it could be this much. Like it's, like someone would have to pump me with air from outside my body. And she's like, or it could be
No.
cheese.
You, or it could be
Or
cheese.
it could be
I'm like, why is the
cheese.
Gemini your choice?
Ugh.
Because that sounds like that.
I'm just
Yeah, like
surrounded by
Gemini,
Gemini. I'm
hypochondriac.
surrounded by
Yeah.
Gemini.
Hmm.
I'm surrounded by Gemini, and also Virgo is ruled by their gut. And so
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's us.
yeah.
Mercury,
Same. I mean,
gut. We're the
it's
same. We're
us.
one.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm
yeah.
glad we established that. So I know that I say witch, and I'm using the language of witch to kind of organize and gather and call in this season. And I want to
Hmm.
ask you, how do you identify this kind of otherworldly, deep worldly work that you do?
In full transparency, I'm sitting in my bookstore in
Yeah.
Botanica that will be opening to the public in 3 weeks. It's situated in Germantown, East Germantown, very black Philadelphia, on a cobblestone street
Wow.
with there are cars passing by. Black Market Vintage, Kiana and Jay are my interior designers. So they're downstairs hammering, mounting, staging, making it even more magical. So I just wanted to, if you hear noise up in
That's
here,
what's
it's
going
because a
on.
lot of action and alchemy is going on in here right
That is
now.
so
Um,
exciting. Ah,
I can't wait for you to come the next time you're in Philly
yeah.
to host you
Yeah.
and experience it. This has been a project, and
What's it called?
how do I? It
Of
Bukuhudu.
course. Puka hoodoo.
Everybody's like, they're like, I'm like, what? It's like
You're like, you came up
Bukuhudu.
with a good
Like,
name. We're
let's
going to keep with that.
we're gonna keep it that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even though the Gemini and me would like change and variety and difference, I'm like, girl, we're gonna make it simple. That's the Virgo moon in me. Is just like we're gonna simplify
Ah,
things,
yes.
right?
Beautiful.
See? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How do I? What's the question?
So
How
it's
do
how do you
I?
identify,
And you could,
right? Like, would you call it,
yeah.
I remember once years ago that I asked a friend of mine, Alexis Pauline Gums, am I a witch or a priestess? You know? And now I feel like, oh, it's to me, I see these are all feeding into the same river, like they're little streams and
Right,
and I want to name like if there's a different way that if you're like, oh, I wouldn't call myself a witch, I'd say this, right? There's
right,
room for that.
right. So I definitely identify as a
Yeah.
witch. I mean, when people are like, "How do you know that?" I was like, "Because I'm a witch."
Yeah.
I mean, I probably say that I'm a witch maybe 35 times a
Yeah.
day. Like,
Yep.
I know something. How do you know I'm a
Yeah.
witch? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a witch. Like, you do know that I'm a witch,
Yeah.
right? And I know that that language, being a Black woman, being of African descent, I know that like witch in like the English language, there's certain connotations, of course, right? We know the history of witch in
Mm,
a derogatory sense, in a European sense, but then in colonized
yeah.
language,
Yeah.
right? For Africans also, there is these strong connotations for witch. And so I'm aware of that and I still identify as a witch anyway.
Yes.
Formally, because of my formal training, meaning my formal initiation into priesthood, into Lukumi priesthood, which is one of several denominations of Yoruba spirituality. I also identify as an Iyolarisha. That would be, my formal title, or an Iya. I am a priest of Shango,
Uh-huh.
Kawokabiosile, Shango being the Orisha of thunder and lightning.
Yes.
I identify as a hoodooist, being that I am first and foremostly a daughter of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And so in all of these ways, these all make up, my identity of spiritualist. I'm a spiritualist.
Yeah.
These titles make up my framework of how I practice, my lens through which I see the world, the way in which people interact with me,
Mm-hmm.
and the way I interact with nature, the elements, and these cosmological entities and deities.
I love all of that. That whole mouthful feels very like it just feels nourishing to hear. I'm just like, thank you for doing all of those things, for learning all of those technologies. And yeah, I thought you were in New Orleans. Actually, when you just said you were in Philly, I was like, wait, but I'm so confused because everybody can clearly tell where you live.
Everybody's always from New Orleans, but and it's so funny. I love that people always think that I'm home because home
Yes,
is
in you.
I am New
Yes.
Orleans. I am New Orleans. I only left to go to Howard. It was the only reason why I left New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans. And then I came to Philadelphia where I found out that my oldest known ancestors came here from Haiti during the Haitian
Wow.
Revolution. And so that was my Egun connection here. But New Orleans, I am New
That's
Orleans.
right.
I'm not just from New Orleans. I am New Orleans.
Yeah.
And so
It's with you wherever you are. Yeah.
uh, everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's right here.
Now, when did you realize that you were drawn to this path of work, to being a hoodooist and a spiritualist and becoming a priestess and all of it? How did you know?
I went to Catholic school
Mm,
K through 12. In New Orleans, I think we have the highest demographic of Black Catholics in the
okay.
US. And so to go to Catholic school, but Black Catholic schools, and go to mass where we sing gospel and it's like church, right?
Yes.
And it's Black and it's Catholic. And so New Orleans is really rooted in a very deep and old Black Catholic culture. And so growing up in New Orleans, and going to mass every Sunday, going to Catholic school, but also my mom was Baptist. So I was like going to a Baptist church also on
Wow.
Sundays. I was going back and forth between these different denominations. I would say that I had a very close um, connection and understanding and obsession with the divine at a very early age. Like
Yes.
I was obsessed with God. I was obsessed with spirit to the point where I almost thought I wanted to become a nun.
Yes.
Right.
Same.
And but that Virgo energy, but then I
Yep.
was just like, I was so boy crazy though. I was like, this is not gonna work
I know. I
out.
was like, how
Like
can I be a hoe and a nun? I don't understand.
it's not how do we
I'll just
do
wear a nun
both.
outfit.
I mean, let's just do that. Let's
Yeah.
practice. Let's play. Let's dress up. Let's play cosplay as a nun,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Um, so I literally was like, Catholic until the time I was 7. I was going to a Baptist church, so I wanted to be dunked, and I
Yes.
want to be dunked underwater,
Yes.
get baptized. I wanted to be able to take communion, and I wanted to be a part of that understanding of God in the way that my mother practiced it and her mother practiced it, her grandmother and great grandmother, right?
Okay.
And so my parents allowed me to convert, even though my dad being is like once a Catholic, always a Catholic. They definitely indulged my little Gemini self, my
Yes.
young Gemini self, and gave me the freedom to allow me to have that agency
Mm.
as it relates to my spirituality at a very early age, and I'm very very grateful for that,
Yeah.
because that allowed me to develop a deeper relationship with God and to have a closer connection individually with the divine that wasn't forced upon
Yep.
me by my parents and my family. And it was like led by my desires and my pleasure, the pleasure that I got out of going to a Catholic school, but also going to a Baptist church. So like living in between this dichotomy between these two different worlds. And so then me switching schools, and I'm going to another Catholic church where there's like hot boys in the choir and in the youth group. And I was like, and also I wanted to make my confirmation.
Yep.
So I converted back to Catholicism in the 8th grade and made my confirmation. Saint Joan of Arc was my patron saint
Okay.
because hashtag the
You're like,
warrior. Yeah, and the saint of the savior of Orleans. And so it was very early on. Like if you look at my diaries, like I've been keeping a diary since I was like in the 6th grade.
okay.
I literally write about boys, books, because I was obsessed. Also, we're smart, we're
Yep.
geniuses, Geminis and Virgos. So I was obsessed with boys, books, and God. Like that's
I get
literally
it.
in the pages of my diary.
Yeah.
So, that was happening. And then I was having these moments where I was in communication with spirit.
Yes.
That was my ancestors that were coming to visit me,
Yes.
and I'm just like 5 years old. My grandmother's appearing, and, great grandfather Haitian great grandfather that died in my great grandmother's house in the bed that I used to sleep in as like a 7. I'm like, why would y'all put me in this
Hello.
bedroom? in a shotgun house, this black ass, dark ass shot, silent at night, and spirits are coming to visit me.
Oh my
Why?
God.
So at a very
Wow.
early age, I understood, like, I was communicating with spirit. I was going to cemeteries to have conversations with my
Mm,
egun. And I was having very deep conversations with God.
good. Beautiful. So, I think what I hear in this, I'm really fascinated. I've been asking people a lot about their lineage, the ancestors and the lineage of the work for them, and if there's a formal lineage to name that as well. Because a lot of what you were just describing, I think of that as like the informal lineage, where it's like the spirits who are just like, hey, tap tap, I see you, I know you
Right,
feel me, I know you hear me, and here's a guideline of what you need to do. A lot of it for
right.
me was like, I'm getting clear instructions. I don't know what you would call it, but I just know that I'm supposed to trust this and move in this particular way. And then I came across formal lineages that taught me how to feel myself, how to feel others, what to listen for, how to move energy through my hands, all the different things that I have since learned to do. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you consider to be the ancestors in the lineage of your work? And are there formal lineages that I know there are, but yeah, what are the formal lineages that you claim?
So I mentioned, I always felt something connecting me to Philadelphia, and I just assumed it was an old city like New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I felt at home. It wasn't until I started doing my genealogy, like really delving into my genealogy a few years ago, that I'm tracing my ancestry back. I'm from New Orleans, like seven, eight generations,
Yeah.
and we didn't migrate.
Yeah.
We didn't go to Chicago. Our family didn't go out west. We have been in New Orleans, like straight off the boat in New Orleans, right? And so I'm going back and back further and further and further, free people of color, and going back to like the 1800s, 1850s, my people are being counted in the census because they were free people of color,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
So I'm going back further and further. And so until I find, like, a few years ago, my oldest known ancestors in Philadelphia that came to Philadelphia from the woman from Haiti. Her husband was born in Philadelphia. These are free Black people living in the late 1700s and early 1800s.
Okay.
Their son goes to New Orleans and then also becomes a U.S. diplomat to Haiti. That's
Oh.
that branch of my
Oh.
family tree. So now I know, Marie Claire Gauthier, who lived here in Philadelphia as a free Black woman, and her husband, Jean Gauthier. These are my oldest known ancestors, right?
Okay.
And so I'm at that point, I'm like resting in this. I went to the place where their graves were interred from this Catholic cemetery where Black Catholics were buried in Philadelphia, a part of Old City now where the boys did the Philadelphia Negro, same neighborhood. And so it was called the New Market region of Philadelphia. And so I'm like, whoa, I'm able to go all the way back to like Haiti, right?
Mm.
And then a few months ago, while I'm teaching a class on spiritual development and ancestor veneration, I'm just looking up on Ancestry, and I go to the will of Jean Gauthier. And in this will, he says he's leaving his estate to his wife, Marie Claire, and her mother, Agatha Lewis. Now,
Oh, wait.
I'm seeing this woman's name,
Yes.
not to mention her last name is my last
Yes.
name, right? I look her record up, and this is the first time I'm coming across this information. Ask me, where was she born in 1762?
New Orleans.
In motherfucking Africa.
What?
In motherfucking Africa. She was born in Africa. This woman was born in Africa, enslaved, makes it to Haiti, escapes with her daughter, comes here during the revolution, and is a free Black woman that lives to be 100 years
Oh,
old. Her
wow.
daughter lives to be 103 years old, Agatha
Oh,
Lewis.
wow.
And so when you say, like, to survive, I think anybody who survived slavery, like the institution, who survived the Middle Passage, they all were
Yeah.
witches. They
Mm.
all were witches. They were alchemists.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were able to
That's chills.
to withstand the hells of that journey and that voyage, to be able to live to be 100 and to see freedom, to see Haiti become a free republic, but also to begin a lineage here in the US.
Wow.
She is the oldest witch in my lineage. And so I say light, peace, and progress to the spirit of Agatha Lewis. Light, peace, and progress to the spirit of Agatha Lewis. Light, peace, and progress to the spirit of Agatha Lewis.
Shay.
And so when you have an understanding of your identity, right, whose you are, and this is the work that I did with In Our Mother's Gardens, like, you know, like what is our lineage and naming our lineage, then, you know, you show up, you have a different responsibility in how you show up and how you are to move, particularly as it relates to your purpose, as it relates to your work, right? And it's imperative, particularly if you are identifying as a witch, because like, what are we doing?
Yes.
What are we doing here? If it's not to free ourselves, to free each other, right?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And so what have they done?
Yeah.
And what are we returning to? And that's, my work is rooted in that. And so, and to continue, that's bloodline lineage, right? And in terms of my formal training, I have to say the women, the matriarchs of Ile Ashe, namely my Ialosha, my godmother, Osei Mchawi, also known as Orisaye, Mama Stephanie Weaver, Oke Shande. Our house is descended from the oldest African-American woman to initiate Shango Gumi, Madrina Marjorie Quinones Ibaye, who was the first African-American period to initiate into Lukumi in the United States of America. So not in Cuba, not in Nigeria. This Black woman initiated in Lukumi here in the 50s, and she was the first African-American person to do so. Wow. And that is my formal lineage. My formal lineage also consists of Marta Moreno Vega, who was my first godmother in the tradition, who was the first woman, this Afro-Latino woman who put aleques on me, who introduced me to Lukumi, who taught me how to tap into my spirituality in a very focused and directed way. And then so many other women, you know, that too many to name right now, that have had an impact on me and my understanding of what it means to be a witch, what it means to be a priest, what it means to be a practitioner, what it means to be a godchild, what it means to be a daughter, an auntie, a mother, all of these things. Beautiful. Right? And how I show up in the world.
Beautiful. Hello, beloved survivors. This is Autumn. I'm emerging briefly from the new home I made for myself in the forest among the gnomes and the fae and magical creatures of all kind to remind you that if you listen to this show regularly, you might consider making a gift to support our work in 2024. And I'll tell you a little bit about why. Adrienne and I and our producer, Zach, have always felt strongly that we can best protect the content of our show by being listener-supported rather than ad-sponsored. Being financially supported by the people who are most directly impacted by our show means that we can fearlessly move towards the most difficult topics, the most challenging conversations, and the most courageous edges of the time we are living through. From our apocalypse survival episode on the right to arm and defend ourselves, which aired in the midst of the 2020 uprising, to our 2023 ceasefire episode on the genocide being perpetrated on the Palestinian people in Gaza, we have maintained our show as a place to hold out visionary possibility with our eyes trained on liberation for all oppressed peoples. That's because we aren't worried about being dropped or canceled. We know that the people who most need to hear us can and will hear us, and that's because of you. So we want to thank you, all of you, who support our show in all of the myriad ways that you do it.
And we want to invite those of you who haven't yet to consider making a sustaining gift via Patreon. In exchange, you do get some sweet, cute merch, plus access to content that we record only for patrons. So you can go to patreon.com/endoftheworldshow to learn more. And if you're wondering if I'm coming back, I'm coming back.
Every time I hear folks who can speak about their lineage this clearly and with this level of familiarity, I feel this hunger because mine is less known. It's less findable. Like when I go searching, a lot of it is like, I was one of those people like, I guess I have to do ancestry.com because nobody knows, like things were not written down and things are not known. And I have to try to weave the stories in other ways. And it's so good for it's like a good, maybe it's not even jealousy. It's like Schadenfreude or something. It's like the good stuff, I'm like, oh, it makes me so happy that the line is unbroken, that your knowledge of the line is unbroken, and that the medicine, I think it accumulates across generations when you can feel it that way. Not that it doesn't, I know I feel an accumulation spiritually as well, but I think there's something so beautiful. When I speak of my ancestors, I have to speak of them without their names, and I can feel them, but I think there's something so beautiful about being like, here is who it was. And I know some of the story, and I'm really grateful that you have that and that you know that.
And what I'll tell you, Adrienne, though, they're just waiting for you to I mean, this wasn't information that I knew 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't know Agatha's name last year.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is part of what's brought me back to North Carolina. What I do know is that my lineage is all in the Carolinas. The story of us being on this land happens here.
Mm-hmm.
And there are still ancestors. There are still members of my family who are living who I think I can ask and probe and find out more. I'm like starting to do that, like, send me these pictures. Tell me this. Tell me more. But then there's just parts of it that are unknown. There's parts of our story that are mysterious, and which also feels like, part of being a Black American. It's just, there's like places where it's intentionally like, you can't see here. And so then it's like, there's other ways to listen, right? There's other ways to listen. And to me, the work you've been doing within Our Mother's Gardens, to me, that felt like a spell. Watching that entire piece, it felt like a spell that was cast, that was just like, we can cast gold on all of these lineages and honor all of them, So maybe that brings us into this next work, because I feel like you're casting spells all the time in all these ways, and it makes you extremely prolific as a creator. Like when I'm like, I don't even understand how you do all the things you do, right? So could you tell us a little bit about all the ways that you do your witch work?
I'm like, it's alchemy.
It's alchemy across the board.
Yeah, and people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, Shango.
Yes. Like, I hand it over to something larger than myself.
Because there's no way. I'm like that during the pandemic, I did this whole film and I found footage. And I mean, to that point, I'm still going to, even the mystery, I feel like, and what I encourage folks, like in my book club and that's talking about the work. I have a ATR's book club. I'm helping people to demystify the Black divine and connect with their ancestors. And I mean, there are people who have been adopted and they found their ancestors. They've learned these names. And I really believe, like, once we start talking, and I'm like, y'all, I want to know your names,
There's ways.
You need to give me some information.
Like, give me. Yeah. Well, and also it's like knowing, like, Amani Perry and I realized that we were cousins because we were both looking, and then we found each other.
Wow.
And so then that unveiled, it's like, oh, so then I was able to find family tree and be like, oh, here, this is the intersection point. So now we know that ancestor was carrying something that produced these lines that led to our generation and being two people who are Virgos, born a day apart, who are writing nonstop, right? Like, I'm like, there's something very interesting. I'm like, what was that ancestor up to?
Right. What were they doing?
What were they doing?
Exactly. For us, right. For us to be here and manifesting the way we do. Yeah. So, I, after the film, I'm like, was it that obvious that I was casting a spell? I knew, when Ava told me I needed to add like 20 minutes to the film. And again, this is in the pandemic, like the
Yes.
height of it, the
Yes.
beginning of it. So there was no not going out and shooting
That's right.
people, you know what I
That's
mean?
right.
Like, you know, it wasn't like productions, and there was definitely no money. You know what I mean? A lot of my contract work, you know, halted, like so many of us during the pandemic, because there were so many unknowns. And so I'm literally sitting there and I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna do this? And I was like, I'm going to I was like, I need to film someone who can help carry this film. But the missing piece is also really instructing people on how to communicate with their ancestors in a way that's very accessible for all of the Christians and those folks teetering on that line with, should I stay in the church or should I not stay in the church? And it was Mama Coco, who, you know, is my former grad school professor that I met in Brazil back in 2003, 2004, when I was about to start grad school. And I found out on that trip. And she also found out that she was going to be teaching at Temple in that department, and then was going to be my professor of African religions while we were in Saudi de Bahia, you know. Go to Mama Coco's house and just let her be Mama Coco.
I love it.
And it was such a huge risk, you know. I mean, it was such a huge risk, from the audio, from the sound of her slippers sliding across the floor, and all of her jewelry, and her putting on her makeup while she's on camera. Just her being this free Black woman, this supreme witch, right? This Iya, this elder, this scholar, this survivor, this storyteller, this alchemist, right? This magician, this shapeshifter, all of these things, this warrior. I was like, she's gonna do the work. There's a portal being open. And I understood in that moment what was the charge for that film. I understood what was my responsibility. And so regardless of how scared and afraid I was and how much fear I had, I was obedient to spirit that told me, if you want to be a king, child of Shango, women are the kingmakers and you need to service women, right? And in servicing women and servicing Black women, that would unlock the kings of my kingdom for me.
Okay.
And so, you know, that I understood that would open things up, not to the extent of like I'm opening up a Botanica in a bookstore, but that led to us doing these conversations online, again, during the pandemic. That led to me establishing the ATR's book club, which has hundreds of members across the diaspora. That led to me founding Buku Hoodoo Fest in Louisiana, in New Orleans last year. You know, it's like 3-4 day celebration of all things African traditional spirituality. And then me just doing my own personal healing. Like, I think me learning and studying and healing is also deeply a part of my witch work. Because I can't help support somebody else in their journey if I'm not deeply embodying that work myself, if I'm not in a deep therapy practice, if I'm not literally getting inside of my body, which has been my, like, as we talk about food, right? And this love-hate relationship with like dairy and with me also with sugar, is like getting back into my body. Cause you know, as cerebral people, you know, Geminis and Virgos, we stay in our heads, right?
I'm like, I've got a nice couch up here. I just want to chill up here. This is great.
Comfy.
Yeah. But I love this, because I'm like, I really believe you can't teach what you have not practiced to the level of embodiment. And you can learn beside other people, you know, but if I'm trying to tell people like, here's something that can work for you, I have to know it because I've been inside of that.
You have to know it. And to that point, you know, there are so many people who are going through these quick, fast initiations, you know, and it's like, oh, I'm a I need 5, oh, I'm a Baba this, I'm a that. And, you know, folks get a deck of cards and then out here reading people. Babalaos train 12 to 20 years before they're working on their own, right? And so like even in Lukumi, we go through a year-long initiation process as Yawos, right? Which means bride in Yoruba. And so for me, even though I'm servicing people, I'm like, I am in deep learning and training right now. While my elders are here, I'm deeply learning. And so sometimes I feel even uncomfortable with calling myself like a healer,
Yes.
right? I definitely certainly don't identify as an elder, because there are people, my age who have like 30, 40 years of initiation, right? And I
Right.
feel like I'm still a baby in this. And so I'm humble enough to know that in order for me to deeply do this work, I have to be learning so that I do know, right?
Yes.
I have to learn, I have to study, I have to train, I have to humble myself.
Yes.
I had to support a hierarchy, a healthy hierarchy,
Yes.
right? So we're not talking about a hierarchy within patriarchy, we're talking about a hierarchy within a matriarchy, but respecting the place that I have at my elders' feet and
Yes.
being okay with that,
Yes.
right? And so as I'm showing others the little that I do know, I'm doing so while also understanding there's so much more that I don't know, and that is
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
a part of my charge, right, to learn as much as I can so that I can responsibly and ethically help people to heal themselves and help bring people to greater
Yeah.
understandings.
I really love this, Chantrelle. I think there's also, I feel always torn in both directions, right? Like I feel like on one hand, the rigor and the longevity of practice is what it takes to really learn something from the inside out. And I'm always thinking about how do we make things as accessible as we can. And
Yes,
so I'm always
absolutely.
back and forth between, I'm like helping people I often think my work is helping people get curious enough to move towards something. And I'm like, if you get
Yes,
curious enough to move towards it, the right path will unveil itself to you, and
Ashe.
you'll do something on it that I couldn't do. Like each person has a different way
Absolutely.
that they're going to walk down it. I just got off the phone with someone who was started doing the kind of somatic healing work that I do, started doing that because of something that we did together like a decade ago. And it was so
Wow.
cool to hear what they've made of it, which is a fully different path than what I've made of it. Now I'm like, how do I bring it into song and ritual? And, they're like, how do I bring it into coaching and supporting people who
Mm,
are trying to lead in a very difficult environment for people to lead in, but I'm like, it's the same at the root. It's the same way of being like, how do we listen inside the body, and how do we listen through the
right.
trauma? How do we listen to hear what the healing is that's possible? And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking both about the radical act of being a student and the radical act
Mm-hmm.
of having elders and being able to be in a relationship with your elders. And I also
Yep.
want to ask you if there's other things, other skills, other technologies that you wish people had access to in this apocalyptic time from your practice.
I mean, besides like the thing is because people are, I was like when I was even thinking about our conversation today, and when I think about the shopping, what are people looking for, right? When
Yes.
they come to me, when they come to the book club, when they come to these stores and they buy things, people are looking for magic. They're looking
Oh,
for
yes.
the ability to to transform and manipulate their life circumstances, right?
Yes.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, when people buy a candle, when people do any kind of rituals, when people say prayers, when people do say chants, when people burn incense and
Mm-hmm.
sage, when people do cord cuttings, when people do all of these different things, they're trying to access their innate alchemy so that they are literally transforming and manipulating their material reality, right? And trying to take the agency that's been stolen from us through these like Judeo-Christian patriarchal systems and dogma,
Mm.
and trying to claim back what is like theirs by birthright, right? By
Yes.
DNA, by bloodline. And so people are looking for that. And like, to your point is I am trying to help people understand like you don't have to do what I do and how I do it.
Mm.
You need to the tool and technology is getting as close to your truth as humanly possible, to that very specific thing that your spirit prior to you even coming through a womb to get here,
Yes.
right? That you chose to do, and that was a part of a lineage, that was a part of karma, part of your destiny, part of many things for you to get as close to that truth as possible.
Yes. Yes.
That is a tool and that is a technology. And it's also an imperative, I think, when, we talk about our radical freedom and, just like the future, we have to move closer to our individual like truth,
That's right.
so that we can move like as a collective, we can do the work that we need to do for our survival and our thriving, not just our survival, but for us to thrive as a people,
Yes.
as a society, as a species. It is so imperative. And so like true, like that throat chakra, work, especially as survivors, like opening up that throat chakra, and then also getting in touch with your sacral chakra. I think those are the two of the most powerful things
Yeah.
that we can do as human beings, and as we can do as Black people, is opening up the throat chakra, which is a tool. And that's what I'm trying to teach my nieces and my bonus daughters and any young woman I come in contact with, is like speaking truth to power, that I shade that we talk about, that no more the breath. That's why
Yes.
in spells, right? In spell, like the word, the spoken word is such an important part of that, because the spoken word alone can bring about a change in a material reality.
Yes. I mean, this is the thing. I'm like, please understand this, y'all. What we say, it's mattered. It's mattered before, and it matters now. And it matters not in the way you think, right? So it doesn't matter in a way of trying to control conditions. But I tell this all the time. I'm like, you are writing the world into existence with the things that you say. You are casting spells all the time. The way you speak about yourself, the way you speak about your loved ones, the way you speak about the potential of your family, the way you speak about the potential of your life. I'm like, the world hears all those vibrations, and it's impacted by the intention inside of them. And yeah, I think it's, I look at someone who's lived the way you live, where it's like, you create spells through containers, like I'm like, oh, you're like, we need a spell for abundance for Black people. Here's Shop Black, right? We need a spell that helps us tap into our matriarchal lineage. Here's In Our Mother's Gardens, and you keep doing that with the Buku Huda Fest. It's like, we need a spell that invites people to open up inside their capacity to witch, to cast spells, to transform the conditions around them. Like, I think there's something about that, putting your beliefs into action, that is really uniquely realized in the way that you do your work, that it's very exciting to be, to coexist with you. Because I'm like, oh, there's going to be something new. You come up with ideas and you manifest, and you actually like, here it is now. I think a last question I have that I'm really interested in to hear your answer is, there's not a world in which you get completely healed and then you begin to do this work.
Right.
And
right.
I notice that there's a cycle in me. There's times when I'm really good and the energy that's flowing through me is really golden and really pure. And I feel like, yeah, it's all good. And there's other times when there's a lot of shadow, and maybe there's even confusion in me. There's doubt in me. There's other things moving in the channel. And I feel like one of the things I'm learning to hone is how to consistently deliver the pure gift, no matter where I am, because the pure gift comes from beyond me. And I'm like, that can always come through. But I'd love to hear from you if you have advice on how you, or just lessons on like how you continue to do the spells, how you continue to do your witch casting work, even as you're doing your healing work.
It's that part, before we hopped on, we were talking about, you were mentioning some things about grief, right?
Yes.
And I've just survived such a huge season of grief.
Yes.
Through physical, like the deaths of like loved ones. Two of my closest cousins, passed away like right after each other. Friendship losses, like three of my very best friends who are like more than friends to me. They were family.
Yes.
One of them, it felt like a divorce,
Oof.
essentially, because that's the level of our relationship, the nature of our relationship.
Yes.
And so it was a lot of grief, right? And I was talking to a friend yesterday about one of those, friendships. And I was able to see one that I should have been in therapy years ago. I mean, when I say years, like probably as soon as I came out the womb, because, my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck.
Oh.
And in Yoruba land, they call those types of birds or children hyena, which is an Orisha, who is the sister of Shango,
Wow.
and is the fire that comes out of Shango's mouth. And so children who are born in that condition oftentimes become children of Shango and priests of Shango,
Yeah.
right? So that was such a revelation. But I mean, that was a traumatic experience coming out of my mother's womb.
That way.
So I probably needed some therapy, from that.
Yes.
And I think healing has to be synonymous with witch work. We have to delve into the ugly, the shadow, that which we're even afraid to not only speak, but that we're even afraid to remember, because we believe that it's going to break us. Just the thought of what we experienced alone will break us, right? And shatter us into a thousand little pieces. But it's absolutely necessary, because these traditions alone, whether it's the divination, is being able to communicate with God and getting a direct answer back, channeling, being possessed, none of those things will in and of itself be able to heal us if we're not able and willing to do that work of going to the dark recesses of our lived experience, and even the lived experience of our ancestors, to heal not only for ourselves, but heal the generations coming after us.
That's right.
And even heal the ones that came before us, because they didn't necessarily always have the tools at that time to do that healing work for themselves. And so it's like, I have to live, like I must be in therapy. Even breaking up with those friendships like that, I don't think I would be talking to you about this work. I would not be deeply engaged with this work if I did not, as much as I love those people and still do.
Yeah.
I have a deep love for them, right? And I experienced a deep loss and I experienced a lot of grief and a lot of mourning at the distance that exists between us. But it was a part of something. I had to be brave enough to do that in order to get the closest to my truth and the closest to my purpose. I had to experience that loss in the same way that I had to confront my cousin who molested me.
Yes.
Right. And then in my entire family. And if that meant me being ostracized by my family and being hurt by that and experiencing pain over that, experiencing that only for several years later through the level of work and the expression of rage and everything else in between, that I'm able now to forgive my cousin, something I didn't even think was remotely possible. And I would say, and when I say forgiveness, not in a Christian sense of forgiveness, like turning the other cheek and you've harmed me. Like, I'm very clear about your harm and the impact and everything, but I can't reconcile with you, because in order to keep my bloodline going and keep those ties, that and as the next matriarch of my family, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's the work that I need to do.
That's exactly.
And then I'm prepared to do now because of my healing.
I often say to my friends, I don't know how people are doing this life without therapy, astrology, and tarot. And I'm like, you're just walking around not asking any questions and not having any space. So I want to say thank you for the vulnerability of what you shared in that, because I think part of what I'm interested in is pulling the work of healing off of any pedestal and trying to make it something that's like, yes, we can rigorously practice for a long time. And even when we do so, and even when the divinity of existence is filling us up, we're still at the same level as anyone else. That's the trick of it all, right? So we're still doing this human experience, and there's still ancestral and present day and future healing work to do, right? That feels so important to recognize so that we're not trying to compare ourselves to those we think are healed and done and off somewhere else, but we're just being like, no, like we're supporting each other constantly.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy listening to you. I really enjoy talking with you and learning from you. And I want to read this poem now. So this poem, so Amy Sherald painted a portrait called Saint Woman. And this was in 2015. I saw this painting and I was immediately blown away by the painting. Something about the stance of this woman and the beauty of this woman just really spoke to me. And so I sat down and wrote a poem. And then that whole explosive wedding extravaganza thing happened, and everyone's talking about Shantrelle Lewis. And so I go to your page, and somewhere in that mix, I saw the painting, and you wrote about it, and I was like, "You're my saint woman." So, and you know, it just felt like, okay, well, pay attention to her. So that poem is now included in Fables and Spells, which is going to be read now. Saint Woman. No such thing as her. That's what no one want to understand. She catch your eye because she can, but she already memory. Beyond the brief pulse of interest, she float around herself, roots, tendrils ever reaching, never landing. Bitter cloud. She not young like she was, not easily slipped from her attention. She not old, but time closing in. Someday she taste fear at dawn, try to be alone in it, no words anyway. Saint woman, wear a river in public, so she can keep moving to the sea. Everyone who see her start to pray, but she got no miracle left. Just this breath and the next breath, licking the salt away. Saint
This
woman.
made me cry.
You know, no other poem I've ever wrote is like this poem. So thank you for this poem. Thank you for being someone who must be painted, and for someone who must be listened to, and for someone who is impacting us so deeply. Thank you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you. Take it easy on yourself. Thank you so much to our beloved listeners. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Our show is produced by Zach Rosen, the God. We are on Patreon at End of the World Show, on Instagram at End of the World Show PC. We'll see you next time. Cast a spell.